Hello fellow modifiers. In this video I will talk about rather inexpensive bar riser for your Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled. Probably fits other Scramblers as well. And I will throw in some other modifications as well, so stay tuned. Welcome back everybody. This is a short video on how I made some bar risers for my Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled from 2018. So I was shopping around on the internet to look for bar risers, and there are some pretty sophisticated ones that also cost thereafter. Now, a lot cheaper hack to create bar risers is simply to buy longer 10mm bolts and then just add aluminium spacers. But if you do, then you need to realize that the U-bolt, which is this bit here, is bolted onto this inner part here, which is rubber suspended. That is to absorb the vibrations from the motorcycle. But if you do this, which I originally did with two 10mm spacers, there is a slight risk, albeit small, that if I hit a serious bump or jump or drop the bike, that these rubber suspended inserts could actually be pushed down into the triple clamp, which I realized after I mounted them. So the remedy is simply to have a different setup like this. First, you put a washer with an outer diameter that does not exceed the rubber insert, you see, so that will allow it to move freely. It cannot be bigger than that. And then on top of that you put a 10mm spacer, aluminium, which is 25mm wide, which means that it will exceed the limit. Now the idea with having a spacer which is wide than that hole is to prevent it from being pushed down. So that will stop you from accidentally pushing down the rubber insert there, which could happen in this case. Not likely, but it could happen. So if you push it really hard, imagine that you do like a double backflip or something, then that will definitely happen. So therefore you want to have a spacer which is slightly bigger, and 25mm will do the trick. So what you put on top of that, if you want to go taller than just 11mm, or what you end up with these two, is that you can put another one on top. And this one could also be 25mm in outer diameter, but I don't have that, so I will stick to something which is 20mm, which is fine because that will sit on top. So you will have a sort of a birthday cake that looks like that, and then that adds a couple of millimeters. So you need to replace the original bolts with longer ones, and these are 90mm M10 regular steel ones. So finally you will end up with the sandwich looking like this. First a washer, then the two spacers of equal 10mm. The lower one is slightly bigger, so it's impossible for it to be pushed down through these goods here, right? So now we're back on track, safe, compared to the right hand side, which I wouldn't judge completely safe. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap that around as well. And by the way, this hack is dirt cheap compared to what you find out there with bar risers that are very sophisticated with angle chains and everything. And to be honest, you don't really need that. So just to be clear, sorry for repeating myself, but this little washer in the bottom is really important because without it, the rubber suspension wouldn't work properly. The little gap the washer creates is essential for the vibration dampening. And these aluminium spacers, you can find them pretty much anywhere on the internet. They're standard. They're 10 millimeters high and 20 millimeters wide. That's that one. And then we have the other one, which is 9.5 millimeters for some reason, wide or tall, and 25 millimeters in diameter. There you go. I have now tested it in real life on dirt roads, and it works perfectly. I've also mounted new Footpegs. A lot of YouTubers out there complain about the slippery original ones, and I'm one of them. Once they're fine as long as it's dry, you won't slip then, but once it gets wet, it gets really slippery. So this should do the trick. They're pretty aggressive. And I have also SW Motec gear pedal, and it actually comes out quite far, so I just took the angle grinder and just cut it there, because this sticks out far enough so you don't accidentally change gears. Now you may notice also this one is supposed to bend if you crash, which I've done once, and you can see it's a bit warped. I managed to re-bend it, so it's now back in the position, but it's still not that pretty. Also here, I changed from regular gear shift to race. Now, to be honest, you don't want to do that if this is your only bike, because it's easier to keep it in the way it's supposed to be when you're riding dirt. But I have another motorcycle which I ride on track with, and there it makes sense to have the race shift, and I don't want to have different on the two different bikes, so that's why I changed it. Something I added quite early on was a quad lock mount on the handlebar for my iPhone. But the first one I had was mounted straight onto the crossbar, and that meant that the vibrations from the motorcycle actually ruined the phone's camera system, which has its own vibration dampening, and that was damaged. Quadlock became aware of this problem and produced this rubber suspended mount, which I've been using since, and so far so good. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which will probably cover a redesign of the rear carbon fiber mudguard. See you there!